Okay, in this last bit for today, like I just said, we're going to finish rough rendering everything so that next class we can make it all super pretty. So, three things we're going to do is we're going to talk about noses, neck, and ears, even though I don't need ears. I will show you how to do it. And we're going to start with that first. So, let's pretend that I need an ear. And what happens with the ear, is that the cheekbone, I'm going to make this real nice and clear if I can. The cheekbone moves back and ends right at the back of the jaw. So the cheekbone and the ear and the cheekbone and the jaw are about at the same place. And then the jaw usually will have kind of a little back angle on it, right? And then the rest of this is skull. So what you'll notice is that the ear hole is right there, right? Here's our full skull, cheekbone, jaw, ear hole. Cheekbone, jaw, ear hole. Right there. I think what you'll notice if you look at pictures where your ear, you'll notice that the ear sits back on a back angle, and that you can judge its height from drawing lines from the base of the nose and the brow. You can use, it's usually a parallel lines, you know, whether it's high or low, it's up to you, but the ear will sit essentially in a space like that, okay? So once you have it kind of mapped out from the profile view, then you want to look at your forward view and figure out how far the ear sticks out off of the head. And what you're going to do is create a little ear shape that is going to be as thick on the back as your ear sticks off the head. So it's like a little wedge, right? So when I stick it in there, this is going to be thick enough to make the ear stand out as much as it needs to go, okay? So then what I'll do is bring it in, connect it with the jaw, and I will cut my contour based on my model or my pictures. And usually what happens is the lobe comes around, sometimes it's attached, a lot of times it's connected, and I'm just going to cut straight back, and then it's usually around, and then this will come down and connect, right? So I'm going to shape the ear that way, and then on the back side, I'm going to think about the thickness of the ear cartilage, but I'm not going to cut that out so it's completely free. I'm just going to dent in a little bit to set a contour, and I'm going to use the rest of that clay to sweep down and connect the ear to the head. Okay? So you're not actually making a thin ear, it'll just dry out and crack. I'm making a thick ear with a little lip on it so that essentially from every angle but the back, it looks like it's thin. Okay? Then the other thing you can do is start to push in the holes. I usually under render ears. I don't put a lot into them because I want all of my detail to be on the face. But just look at your picture to know where the ears catch shadow. And so I won't do a lot to an ear, right? Until I know where I'm going here. It's kind of like I treat them like they're a little out of focus. Okay? Well, that's a little elvish. But so that's an ear if you need it, and we can talk a little more about that next time. The thing I do want to concentrate on now is the nose, and I'm just going to start to add in the nostrils and the width. So the first thing I'm going to do is check all of these relationships. See the little planes there and the bridge and the sides. So I want to get those little planes working correctly. That's the shape of the nasal bone, right? And it's going to be a little angled on the sides, and it's going to be a little smoother down the bridge. And then usually what happens, try to leave that a little clear for you. Usually what happens is that where the nasal bone connects to the cartilage, there'll be a little wide spot, right? So you'll have like thick, thin, as you move down the bridge. But you'll have to look at the bridge of your own nose, okay? So I'm going to shape that bridge out a little bit, make sure it's got that nice little fleshy strap plugging into it, it's got sides on it. And then for my nostril, I'm going to look at the front, and I'm going to judge how far out in space those nostrils need to go. Okay. And I'm going to notice that my nostril in my model, my nostril is higher than my septum. It may not be true for you, but you want to look at the relationship between the septum right there and the nostril. And then essentially, it's pretty easy. You're going to put like a little pea-shaped ball of clay right there, and you're just going to sweep it towards the tip of the nose. Okay? Sweep it towards the tip of the nose. And that's all I'm going to do right now, because I'm just blocking, I'm starting to render, but I'm still kind of blocking things in, right? We're up at 32-bit now. We're not making robot heads anymore, but I'm still using the same type of technique where I am seeing major forms and I'm adding them in and then adjusting them. It's just that my major forms are now a lot smaller than they were when I was adding like whole jaws and whole chunks of hair and whole necks. So then the other part is the tip, right? And I'm going to look at my side profile, I'm going to look at the front, and I'm going to use the tip of the nose to adjust any length or angle issues that I have, okay? But usually what happens is the tip, which is this little extra bit of flesh, will go down to the septum, and then there's usually a little hit of shadow between the tip and the nostril, right? So if I symbol my nose like that, then as I get detail-y and noodly about it, I usually end up with the right types of shadows between tip and nostrils. Okay. So we're just going to kind of block in the nose. And then before I leave today, the other thing I want to look at is the neck, right? So I want to look at my pictures, and I want to make a judgment about the chin and the neck, right? The chin, and here, look, if I look at that line, my neck is actually back where my eyeball is, so I've got too much neck there. And then on the back, traveling up and into the hairline. So I'm going to remove, and you might start to run into your armature, right? That's okay. I did, don't worry about it. But I'm going to start to really think about, I'm also going to put my hair back on. Really getting that neck there. What you'll notice on this drawing is between the more vertical part of the neck and the bottom part of the jawbone, there's this plane, okay? That's the platysma. It's like this big sheet muscle that sits over that whole area. It's when you like really strain your neck, it's all these little like, let's say and do it. Here. It's this stuff. All those like fibery things, right? And what that does is it creates this underplane here. So I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to try to establish that angle too. Oop, and I hit my armature there too, right? So I'm really starting to look at where my jaw ends, okay? And usually you're going to come down a little bit vertically, depending on your model, and then sweep out a little more gently until about even with the side of the mouth. And then from here, it'll turn in towards the chin, right? So it's kind of a gradual interior move, and then right here, it'll go more steeply towards the chin. And then we want to look for this angle here between the base of the jaw and the vertical part of the neck, right? And so I'm just going to start becoming more and more specific about these shapes. So here's my shoulder. Okay. So we're going to get about here today, right? We're starting to have a whole lot of information, but it's still relatively blocked in, and that our neck is in the right place, and we've got a lot of good stuff rolling. And then on the next time, we will start to bring it all together and make it look fleshy and detailed and awesome.